Hey y'all, my name is Adina Barnett Miller, but I'm known to my students as Mrs. B. I've been passionate about West Virginia history for as long as I can remember, but my mom would tell you it all started when I was 3 years old and she bought me a West Virginia counties puzzle at Gino's Pizza. I've taught history in Ripley, West Virginia for over 20 years now, and I'm an adjunct professor who teaches college West Virginia history to high school students. Please join me for West Virginia History with Mrs. B, a field trip across the Mountain State to walk in the footsteps of those who came before us. Hey y'all, it's West Virginia History with Mrs. B, and today we are in Fairmont, West Virginia at the Woodlawn Cemetery, the historic Woodlawn Cemetery. And so we are on the search for the Pierponts. That would be Francis and Julia, and this sign denotes that their grave is here in the Woodlawn Cemetery. So let's check it out. Here's a photo of young Francis Pierpont. He was quite the looker. I can see why Julia, who is quite beautiful, must have been attracted to him. And so this sign says, Francis Pierpont, the governor of the restored state of Virginia and the father of West Virginia, died on March 24th, 1899. Waitman T. Willie died the next year in 1900. He is buried here with his wife, Julia Augusta Robertson Pierpont. They first met when he interviewed her in 1847 for a governess's position for his neighbor, Judge Thomas Haywood. She accepted the position, and in 1854, that took a long time, 7 years, she married Pierpont. 3 of their 4 children are also buried here. Their 4th, Mary Augusta, died in Laurel, Maryland, where the family lived while Francis Pierpont served as Virginia's governor in Alexandria. 2 West Virginia governors, 113 Civil War veterans, and West Virginia's first state superintendent of schools are buried in this cemetery. So Francis Pierpont and his family returned from Richmond to Fairmont to their house on Quincy Street in 1868 when his term as governor of the restored state of Virginia ended. He has resumed his career as an attorney, served in the West Virginia legislature, and even taught school for Fairmont's African Americans. So there was a large African American population here, enough to have schools all the way through high school. He became ill in 1896. He lived with his daughter and Anna Sidiver in Pittsburgh until he passed away. Julia Pierpont died here in Fairmont in 1886. While in Richmond in May 1866, she and her children and several friends cleaned and decorated the neglected graves of Union soldiers in Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond. And it was this event and others held elsewhere that are the origins of what we call Memorial Day today, but back in the day they called it Decoration Day, and so people would gather to decorate military graves. And it points out here, on April 20th, 1910, during the day-long ceremonies at the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C., then Governor William E. Glasscock, who's buried in Morgantown, presented a statue of Pierpont to the United States Congress, and it's the one that the state of West Virginia has in Statuary Hall in the Capitol building. So there's 2 statues for every state. So Francis Pierpont is one and John Kenna is the other. And it says, in his presentation, Glasscock said of Pierpont, oh, wait a second. He said, he was the benefactor of Virginia, assisting her to rise phoenix-like from her own ashes. Had there been no restored government of Virginia, there would have been no state of West Virginia. And that is so true. So we are on the hunt for Francis Pierpont and Julia Pierpont's graves, and we will share those once we find them here in Woodlawn Cemetery. Hey y'all, we are now up on top of the hill in Woodlawn Cemetery. We have a fabulous view of Fairmont from our experience here. I think that's pretty awesome that Francis Pierpont has been up on this hill watching Fairmont grow up around this cemetery. And so this is one of the headstones here at the cemetery. It says Francis H. Pierpont, father of West Virginia, born January 25th, 1814, died March 24th, 1899. It says he was a patriot. Amen about that. He was a patriot, he was a statesman, and he was a Christian. And then it has his wife Julia Augusta, was born July 26, 1828, and died March 25th, 1886. So I'm going to show you their actual markers that were put here a little bit past this one. And you do need to be careful if you go here, because there is like a gigantic hole, and I always tend to find the holes. So these markers were put here by the Daughters of the American Revolution, which makes me extremely proud as a DAR member, that they were placed here in 1937 it says. So this is Francis Pierpont's grave right here, and it says the father of West Virginia, Francis Harrison Pierpont, was born near Morgantown in 1814, died near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1899. He was a graduate of Allegheny College in 1839. He was admitted to the Marion County Bar in 1842, and he opened the first coal mine in Marion County in 1854, and he is going to be the governor of the restored government, or the restored state of Virginia, from June 20th, 1861 to April 4th, 1868. The only one. And it says, though a layman, he was elected president of the General Conference of the Methodist Protestant Church from 1871 to 1875. A citizen, loved the length and breadth of West Virginia for his courage in fighting for the rights regardless of his personal consequences. And his family was under threat and under attack throughout the Civil War. You know, Julia was a strong woman. So, and it says that this was put here in 1937 and sponsored by the Major William Hayman chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. And so here's Julia right beside of him. And so Julia Augusta Robertson Pierpont, born July 26, 1828, died March 25th, 1886. She graduated from the Female Seminary of Washington, PA in 1847. She married Francis Harrison Pierpont December 26, 1854. It says, as a wife of the governor during the war between the states, let's just call it the Civil War now, folks, she gave strength and courage to Union soldiers of the state by systematic organization of the women towards supplying their spiritual and physical wants. Under her direction, flags were made and supplies sent to the Sanitary Commission. And soon after the conclusion of the war, she organized in Richmond, Virginia, the first Memorial Day, which was later made national through an order of her friend, General John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Army of the Republic. Note she has her GAR Star Day for the Grand Army of the Republic, which is going to be the veterans organization for Union veterans. And so she was the first West Virginia woman to be made a member of the Grand Army of the Republic, and she was greatly loved for her patriotism, her charm, and her ability. And as the quote says, she organized our Memorial Day. I mean, you talk about like a power couple, like he's the father of the state of West Virginia and she is the mother of Memorial Day. So this was put here, of course, in 1937 as well to remember her. So I'm really glad we came up here. There are several family markers here, including their daughter Anna, who's going to be buried here. And then the boys, Francis Pierpont and Samuel, are also up here. So I think they had 4 kids and 3 of the 4 are buried here. One daughter is going to stay right outside of DC after her dad's time as governor. So this is a really cool place to visit. I want to give you some directions because I might have messed up. Dave's looking at me. I might have messed up. You're going to come in the main gate down there, and you're going to come all the way around the hill, and then you're going to see this little road at the bottom of this hill, and you're gonna think it's a walkway, but it actually is for cars. And you're gonna get a little bit over the crest, and right here are the Pierponts. So there's not directions anywhere else on YouTube. These are the first directions to make it on the YouTube. So this is a really cool place to visit. There are other famous Fairmont residents here as well, including the Flemings who started Fairmont, some of the big coal barons that were famous in Fairmont history are buried here as well. But we wanted to come see Francis Pierpont because, well, he's the father of West Virginia, and he means a great deal to this state and to this country. So I hope you enjoyed this. We're going to actually take you down and show you where Francis Pierpont's house was in Fairmont. And so stay tuned. We're going to take you there next. Hey y'all, we are standing at the Fairmont Fire Department, and we are with a historical marker that denotes what used to be here before the fire department. And it says, ahead near Pierpont Avenue stood the home of Francis Harrison Pierpont, governor of the restored government of Virginia and the father of West Virginia. This is the house. He brought his bride, Julia Augusta Robertson Pierpont, in 1854, and this is where all four of their children will be born. In his library building on April 1861, he is going to devise plans that restored loyal Virginia to the Union, and it also gave life to West Virginia. And so, on April 29, 1863, Confederate forces under Jones and Bowdoin, and specifically General William E. Jones, captured Fairmont, and they destroyed the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Bridge over the Monongahela River. Pierpont was in Wheeling because he was serving as governor of the restored state of Virginia, while his family was staying with relatives in Washington, Pennsylvania. They were angered at not finding Pierpont. It sounds like the Wakeman T. Willie story when they were trying to find Wakeman T. Willie. The Confederates burned the books from his library in the street, and a Confederate tried to save the family Bible, and it says it was retrieved by a neighbor, and it now is in the West Virginia State Museum in Charleston. After the Commonwealth of Virginia seceded in April 1861, representatives of the Unionist counties of northwestern Virginia met in Wheeling and effected the plan that Pierpont devised in his library. And they declared Virginia's governmental offices vacant, and so they established a government that was restored, a restored government of Virginia that was loyal to the Union, and they elected Francis Pierpont as governor unanimously. And in 1863, West Virginia became a state with the Wheeling as its capital, and Arthur I. Borman will be elected governor of the first of West Virginia. We have videos about Arthur I. Borman in our videos. So Pierpont will move the capital of the restored government of restored Virginia to Alexandria, because those were areas that were also loyal to the Union. And so after the war ended in 1865, he relocated the government and his family to Richmond, and then in 1868 he was replaced by a military governor of Virginia, and then he returned to Fairmont. It'll be in 1871 when the government will get returned back to the ex-Confederates, and they waste no time suing. Virginia will sue the state of West Virginia over secession and the debt of secession. So Francis Pierpont will come back here. Not only will he be a lawyer and hold political office, but he's going to teach teach formerly enslaved children how to read and write and give them an education. He will fall ill in 1896. He will stay with his daughter until he dies in 1899. Important to note, this is awesome. It says, right now we are standing here at this moment on the site of the Methodist Protestant Church. Two major events occurred as a result of the Civil War. One was in 1865, the West Virginia Normal School began providing teaching training for the state's new free school system, or public schools, and that'll become Fairmont State. And they're also going to name the Community and Technical College here in Fairmont after him, Pierpont. And then in 1869, under his efforts as a leader in the United Methodist Church, he will unite the Methodist Church, which splits over the issue of slavery, and that reunion happens in 1877. So, not only was he a leader that made West Virginia happen, he also brought back the Methodists together that had split over the issue of slavery before the Civil War. So, Francis Pierpont, Julia Pierpont, amazing human beings that all West Virginians definitely need to know about. So thanks for tuning in to West Virginia History with Mrs. B, and stick with us. We're going to teach you all kinds of West Virginia history. Thanks y'all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to West Virginia History with Mrs. B on both Facebook and YouTube.